Hello, my name is Omar Cadera. I'm the Executive Director at Canal Alliance. We are here today to celebrate the Latino community, the importance that the Latino community brings to our society, to our economy. And today, in today's world, it's very important for all of us to be engaged in our civic participation and start changing the system that's not working for us. So thank you for all your support. I'm looking forward to continue working with you for the Latino community.
My name is Mara Perez. I'm the founder and director of a think tank initiative called Latino Futures, which is a project that's part of my consulting business. I have a strong sense of what the needs are and great concerns for the situations that we're witnessing in terms of the possible future of the Latino population in the United States. By 2045 and beyond, when we are a majority-minority nation, we are going to need leaders from all sorts of corners of the country, all races and ethnicities, in order to remain a viable country. And I'm very excited to be partnering with Canal Alliance, writing issue briefs on a number of subjects that we will begin to unveil in the fall of this year, starting with education and Latinos in Marin County. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Viridiana Acosta Ramirez, and I'm here with Canal Alliance. I am the engagement supervisor at Canal Alliance, and I'm here because I'm going to make a presentation about how Canal Alliance engages our Latino community in civic engagement and what that means for our community. I think that it is imperative that we engage our Latino community, inform them, as it'll empower them and their family.
So my name is Christian Arana. I am the Policy Director at the Latino Community Foundation. We are a community foundation based in San Francisco, California, but we do work statewide for the entire Latino community in California. So part of the reason why we're here today is to talk about how we can build political power for the Latino community here in Marin County. I think we're living in a moment in our nation's history where every single voice matters, every single vote counts. With the onset of the 2020 census, we need to make sure that every Latino is counted for that as well. And so now is the time where we need to make sure that every Latino in every single county, especially here in Marin, are using the voice for things like that in order to build a better community for everyone.
So I especially want to welcome the Latino Community Foundation today. We're so pleased that you were able to join us in Marin County and to meet what an incredible group that we have here today. So our guests today are Christian Arana and Samantha Sandoval. We've been speaking for several months about this event, and we're so glad to have you here.
Great. Good morning, everybody. I'm Samantha Sandoval. I'm with Latino Community Foundation and the manager of programs and grants. Here with Christian Arana. He's our policy director. And first, I just wanted to thank Michelle and Marin First Five for hosting these events. We're really excited that Marin has been, coming together every month to discuss critical issues, and I'm really glad you guys are highlighting Latino issues because Latino issues are California issues, right? And so it's great to be here and to be here also in partnership with Canal Alliance. So thank you. And so I'm just going to kind of discuss what we do at Latino Community Foundation, and our mission is to unleash the power of Latinos across the state. We're the largest ethnic group, and we really are about building our political and civic power. And that's really critically important because Latino nonprofits, are so underfunded and under-resourced across the state. Nationally, less than 1.1% of all philanthropic dollars go to the Latino nonprofit sector. And also in California, about 6.5% of all nonprofit leaders are Latino. So considering we're about almost, 40% of the population, we really have, that's a huge inequity that we face, especially right now with everything going on, nationally with the dramatic rise of anti-immigrant, anti-Latino policies and rhetoric. Everything that's going on along the border, these are the nonprofits that are on the front lines right now of social and policy change. They're the ones where people are lining up at 4 a.m., to get services, to get education, to know their rights. There's, vast programs from youth empowerment, leadership development, health access, and they also bring that cultural aspect to it, right? Being able to be reflective of the population they serve. And so we were actually founded to increase dollars going to the Latino nonprofit sector. And so for our mission, we have the 3 pillars when we approach this work to unleash the power of Latinos across the state. And so we actually have inspired the Latino Giving Circle Network. So we inspire philanthropy formed by Latinos. And then we invest in grassroots Latino-led nonprofits. And then we really bring everybody together through convenings and discussion around critical Latino issues in various different forums to really talk about how you push forward solutions and elevating Latino leadership and bring everybody together, right, to push forward a policy agenda that's going to strengthen families and communities. And so with our first pillar is we inspire philanthropy formed by Latinos. So we actually have the largest network of Latino philanthropists in the country. And we use the Giving Circle model. And so we currently have about 470 different people across the state, from San Diego to Fresno to the Bay Area to Sacramento, who are currently coordinated in about 60 different giving circles. And so these are groups of people, everyday people, all walks of life, from young, we have some young people, youth, we have up to, seniors, our seasoned leaders, and not just Latinos, right? We have people from all different ethnic backgrounds, corporates, government, private sector, who just really share a passion and a generosity for investing in Latino-led nonprofits and coming together, right, to uplift communities. And so actually this year, they'll actually hit $1 million in total grant making from inception in 2012 to current day. And so that's money that was not going to previously go to this sector. So it's great to be able to, find people that are really passionate about their communities and giving back. And then also a lot of times these nonprofits are able to go beyond the dollar, and people have talent, right? They have connections. They're able to build bridges with our nonprofit leaders and connect them to their jobs, or come in and talk to the youth about their careers in STEM. Join their boards or help them in, with fundraising aspects. And also too, for instance, two of our giving circles came together to actually host a youth empowerment summit for young boys. And so that's just really powerful aspect where people, are kind of going beyond the giving, right, to really invest their time and their talent into the betterment of our communities. And so we have different giving circles from, some that are more like regionally focused, like our SF Latina giving circle. They're actually our first giving circle, and it actually just started in 2012 with 14 different Latinas in San Francisco, and it's grown to, as I said, over 470 people in 15 different giving circles. We also have, for instance, have a Latinos in Tech giving circle, and they're really about advancing the STEM pipeline for Latino youth. We have an LGBTQ giving circle, and they're focused on investing in that community. Our largest is actually the Central Valley Giving Circle. People actually told us to not go out to Central Valley, that it's underprivileged area, and there's not going to be people out there to find. But they're actually our largest giving circle, about 80 members out there. And last year alone, this circle gave out $115,000 to various nonprofits. And so they're also really aligned with the work that we do. About 63% of their dollars go to civic engagement and leadership development work, really helping to get out the vote, to build the next generation of youth leaders, and to really come together, right, to build a collective agenda that pushes forward and comes together. And so also we have a gala that we have every year, which is amazing. Everybody dances and have a good time. I encourage you to come next year. And also not just raising money for us, we raise money actually for some of our partners. And so this past one, we've raised a little over $60,000, not just for our core operations, but we actually just gave out to our nonprofits, and we give them core operating support, which is critically important for nonprofits. There's too much funding out there that's restricted, and you can't run programs if you can't have the lights on, if you can't pay for insurance. So these are critically important aspects. And so with these funds, we invest in grassroots Latino-led nonprofits. And so Latino-led meaning half the staff and half the board being Latino, because as I said before, they just are critically underfunded and overlooked by traditional philanthropy. And so, currently we have about 60 different nonprofits that we have currently funded, and we Also, not just a grant maker, we consider ourselves a champion and advocate of Latino nonprofits, and that we're helping them to strengthen their capacity. So over the years, we actually been kind of doing like ad hoc technical assistance around, helping nonprofits strengthen their marketing and communications work, and really helping them develop new resources for, funding. And so we actually were able to partner with, for instance, Google and San Francisco Foundation to launch this like groundbreaking called the Latino Nonprofit Accelerator. And so modeled after the Silicon Valley kind of incubator model is that we were partnered with currently 9 awe-inspiring nonprofits, mostly in the Bay Area, a couple in the Central Valley and the Central Coast, to really help them elevate to the next level of growth and impact. And that's through helping them build their marketing, their communication skills, build their confidence around fundraising, really breaking down cultural barriers to have the whole nonprofit be, have this whole cultural fundraising. Everybody's a fundraiser. Everybody could speak to the mission, right, and to the work. We've given them a grant to help them develop their own goals and reach these goals, and also connected them with world-class support. So they've all been matched with a marketing mentor, with a culturally competent fund development coach, with a Pulitzer Prize nominated photographer, and with an evaluation expert, right, to really work one-on-one with them, provide coaching and leadership development, so they could have, really dynamic marketing and collateral, helping them to also open doors opportunity, where we have different retreats where we actually invite different philanthropic partners to come in to have really candid conversations with our leaders, talking about how to break down power dynamics in philanthropic and nonprofit sector, and see each other as people, right? And what it's like on both sides of the coin of fundraising. And then also our third pillar is around really bringing everybody together, bringing our philanthropists together with our nonprofit leaders, and really pushing forward an agenda that's going to really elevate and strengthen Latino families. And I'm turning over to my colleague, Christian Arana, who's our policy director, to speak more about this work.
All right, good morning, everyone. How are you guys doing this morning? Good. Okay, great. I just want to echo Samantha's sentiments about thanking First Five, thanking Canal Alliance for having us here this morning. I just also want to give a special shout out to our board member, Heather Johnson, who's here. We're glad to see you here this morning, Heather. And also one of our Giving Circle members, Marcia, who's in the back. Just give a special shout out to her. She's part of the Latino Giving Circle that Samantha talked about. My name is Christian, and I'm the first policy director at the Latino Community Foundation. And about a year or so ago, the foundation essentially said that as a foundation, we need to be taking a more proactive stance in policy and decision-making and everything civic engagement. And the reason being is that when you look at the philanthropic world where we work, there are plenty of foundations that give out $10,000 grants, maybe $500,000. Obviously this is money that's much needed for a lot of nonprofit organizations. But the fact of the matter is that if we really want to change for our communities, it has to be done through policymaking. So I also want to give a special shout out to the Councilwoman for opening your space here today, because it's very important that you're here today and being a part of this discussion. So what I do on a day-to-day basis can essentially be boiled down into those 4 key buckets over there. So we have an annual Latino Policy Summit where we bring together a lot of the Giving Circle members that Samantha mentioned, our local community-based Latino-led organizations, to Sacramento to speak with the representatives about the issues that they're facing in the community. So it could be about immigration, it could be about housing, higher education, and we all know here that you look at any issue out there, Latinos and everyone else, there's a huge divide. Latinos, I think the last statistic was about 12% of Latinos have a bachelor's degree in this state. And we know that, the jobs of tomorrow are going to require some type of accreditation, whether it's a bachelor's or a technical certificate, and Latinos are just not getting those. And we can talk about those reasons. There are plenty of reasons as to why that is. So the annual Latino Policy Summit is that perfect space to convene both people on the ground and the grass tops, right? The Mark Levines of the world, to talk about how these issues relate to the Latino community. The second part is the community conversaciones, so community conversations. So it's much like settings like this. It's the idea where you go into a community and you talk about a big issue that's currently facing the community. So for example, last summer we were in Fresno to talk about how the Latino community in Fresno, if we're gonna get more Latinos on a path towards a bachelor's degree, more Latinos in the Central Valley need to be on that path, right? The Public Policy Institute of California said that California needs X million number of degrees in order for the state to be economically competitive. And a large part of that needs to come from the San Joaquin Valley. So it's those type of conversations that we hope to inspire and bring together communities like this, where we talk about solutions. We all know what the problem is, but we haven't quite figured out how to actually implement what the solutions we think are, right? The third component is mobilizing the Latino vote. So one of the biggest things that we did this year, and I don't know if any of you saw it, but we hosted the first nationally televised governor's debate back in January with all 6 leading candidates running for California governor. And to my knowledge, and I'm still going to say this until someone proves me otherwise, that this is the first governor's debate focused on Latino issues in the state of California. And California was founded in 1850, right? The reason being, there are so many of us in the state, there are so many here in Marin County, we have real issues that need to be addressed. The next governor of California cannot win without the Latino vote. It's simple math, right? California cannot be an economically competitive state if Latinos are not getting bachelor's degrees, if they're not getting jobs that pay them well, if they're not getting health insurance. I think a couple months ago, I think California was just named the 5th largest economy in the world, a step up from number 6. I always tell Samantha, the rest of my staff, I really wonder where California would be if everyone in this state, especially Latinos, had an opportunity to thrive. You know, we could seriously be, California as its own entity could seriously compete with the Chinas and the Indias of the world if we're including everyone as a part of this economy, right? And so with that governor's debate, that's exactly the conversation that we had. How is this next governor of California going to address the real issues of the Latino community? And moreover, how are we going to get the Latino community to actually get them to the polling place, right? I was talking with some of your colleagues, Omar, about, you know, why is it that Latinos don't vote? There are a multitude of reasons, but one of the big reasons that I come across every single election is people actually don't know that there's an election going on. and if those are the conversations that we're having, like, you know, there's the whole question about if ballots are in Spanish, the intimidation that sometimes happens at these polling places. I talked to a lot of our community partners, especially in the Central Valley, where they're just too afraid to go into a polling place because they don't know their rights. Some poll workers can get overly aggressive, especially if they show up in line right when the polls close. So these are a lot of the issues that that we currently face as a community when it comes to voting. And then the last component is the 2020 census. So how many of you guys actually have already started conversations about the census? Just show of hands. Okay, so a good number of you. I still believe this, that I really do think that the census is the ball game here. Only because, as many of you probably know, is that, you know, when you count, you make sure that you get the political representation that you deserve and the federal resources to come back to your community. And so the reason why I say that is because, you know, if this is done wrong, you know, this has implications for the next 10 years. And as many of you also probably know, that there's now an addition of a citizenship question. And, you know, I've been reflecting a lot over this last 2 weeks in this country because, you know, everyone's been talking about what's going on at the border with all these children. Good luck trying to get people to trust this government with something like the census, right? And, you know, I don't want to be pessimistic. I want to be optimistic, and I want people to fill out the census, of course, and let's get the fair and accurate count. But it's going to require people like us in this room, the schools, the city councils, the clinics. I heard a lot of clinics, people who work in clinics in the room, to really talk to the community, not necessarily about how the census makes sure that you get political representation of federal resources, but just this idea that by saying that you live here, there's already power within that, right? And so this is a community that all of us should be a part of, and the census is one of the ways in which to do that. So we can skip that slide. And so the reason why we do this policy work is, I mean, as the numbers suggest, you know, we're a pretty big force here, and you know, if the numbers are there as it is now, again, my point, it's like I truly wonder how much bigger those numbers could be if we're really mobilizing every single Latino community in California, especially the one that exists here in Marin County. I forgot who I was talking to, but there are Latinos that live in Marin. Even though I'm from Los Angeles originally, my grandma used to live in San Rafael. I used to go down with her to the Montecito Plaza to pick up her prescription drugs with her. So, but she'd always buy me ice cream afterwards. But I'm not a stranger to Marin. I'm not an outsider, so I've been here plenty of times. But I look at examples like my grandma, and I'm sure there are plenty of stories about people, the Latinos who live in Marin. This is their community, and part of showing your pride for your community is by voting and by filling out the census. And so, like I mentioned, that number is 54% now in K-12 public schools, and in about a couple decades or so, that number is going to jump up tremendously. I was looking at the data, especially for the San Joaquin Valley. I think close to a little bit over 2/3, I believe, 2/3 of Latino children in K through 12 public schools in the San Joaquin Valley are Latino. And I'm sure it's a similar story here in Marin as well. But and this is why we do what we do. It's always been about children, and even more so with what's going on right now in this country. It's like, how do we make sure that the children of our community have an opportunity to succeed? We can stay there. So part of the reason why we are so engaged in mobilizing the Latino vote is because we know what the consequences are when you don't vote, right? We see someone like the likes of President Trump. We see someone with the likes of the policies that we're seeing today, and it's because when we don't vote, we don't get the representation that we deserve, right? And as those numbers suggest, even though we're 40% of the population, there's a gap in the representation that we deserve, right? So even at the city council level, and this is across the state. Just about 15% or so of city council members across the state of California are Latino. And there are even more Latino cities in California, and they still have a number like that. And it's not to suggest that just because you'll have a Latino elected official that you'll have policies that more reflect the Latino community. But, research suggests that, when you vote, you get people that truly represent you and actually pass policies that actually matter to you. I know the cost of housing is also a big issue here in Marin County. Where we live in Alameda County, it's also a huge issue. And this is a discussion we've been having for decades now. And I feel like with this governor's race that we're having right now, I am hopeful we're going to start to see some real concrete solutions about how we address the cost of housing, because it matters for the Latino community. In Los Angeles, where I'm from, the homelessness rate has risen dramatically, and it's been because Latinos have been pushed out of their rent-controlled apartments. They can't buy a home. They've lost their jobs. They don't have an education to get another job. All these factors are tied with one another, and so that's why it's just critically important that we're meeting in places like this to literally leverage each other, as you said, Councilwoman. To make sure that we're speaking with one another and strategizing to actually get some of this stuff done. And so I'll just finish my presentation with a little bit more census because I want to hear from our other panelists. But, as I mentioned, it's representation at the federal level. It's about federal resources. Most Latino communities, unfortunately, have been considered hard to count communities. And what I mean by that is that it's a number of factors. It's a language barrier. It's a high density barrier. There are actually some apartments that the Census Bureau doesn't even know about. So how can they get sent a notice to actually fill out the census? This is how basic this stuff is, right? And for some reason, this is part of the reason why people don't get counted. There's something undergoing right now called the local updates of census addresses. I don't know if any of you have heard of that. But the idea is the Census Bureau has this big master list of all these addresses, right? And that's how these households get notified to fill out the census, right? But 50% of the undercount in California back in 2010 happened because they didn't even have your address on file. And so I know cities and counties across the state have been working to see how we can make sure that that census address list is up to date. So at least we're actually reaching people to begin with, right? And then on the representation piece, this is something I really hope that you guys take away with, because even though the population has grown in California, the numbers of the House of Representatives for us hasn't gone up. I think it's Congressman Huffman that represents this area, but there could be a possibility, because of an undercount, because of the citizenship question, that we may lose a member of Congress, and we actually may lose 2 members of Congress. And that's big, only because, and this is just my own personal theory, but assuming those 2 members of Congress that we may potentially lose are, more so liberal, progressive, or whatever it is, and with the way votes go now in Congress, those may be 2 more votes for the Affordable Care Act, the DREAM Act, and everything else we fought for in this community, right? And so every single vote, at least I've seen, has come down to, Democrats and Republicans. No one really crosses the aisle. And so literally every single one of those votes matters. And it could be the difference. And so, that's why I'm here today to talk a lot about census, because that's what we're fighting for, right? And again, if this is done poorly, it has ramifications for the next 10 years. So I'm sure we'll talk more about census in Q&A, but I just want to reiterate that point. Next slide. And we go to the next one. There was another one. Okay. And then I'll just I'll just finish with the voter engagement piece, because I was talking with the elections official. I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but we just had a primary, right? And I think you were telling me that Marin County had about 56% or so, and that's impressive for a primary here in California. So a lot of you should definitely feel proud about the work that you've done in this community, because I think year after year, Marin County continues to be one of the counties that really has strong voter turnout. But 56% is not enough, and we're living in this age of resistance, right? I'm sure many of you have seen these articles about how California is leading the way and we're resisting, and but to me, 56% is not a sign of resistance. There's obviously a lot of work to be done. And a lot of that can change if we're investing in the Latino community, if we're investing in leaders like Omar, to make sure that every single Latino in this county, especially here in San Rafael, understands that their voice does matter, right? I know there's been the case about the sheriff here in this county, and it's tricky, right? We're a sanctuary state, but then you have this going on. And it kind of begs the question, and to your point, Councilwoman, it's like, who represents us at the White House does matter, but who represents us at the local level also matters as well. And that's become even more pronounced in the times that we're living in, because now is an opportunity to tell every single elected official who represents you, where do you stand, right? And so we have a huge opportunity for this general election. It's my understanding that Gavin Newsom lives in Marin County. So if you see him, ask him a question about what his plans are for this community especially, because he's from here. So on with that, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I just wanted to invite everyone that joined us at the back, come on down and have a seat. And thank you to our Registrar of Voters, Linda Roberts, for joining us today. We're going to hear from her in just a few minutes. I just want to follow up on a few of the comments that, the numbers that Christian shared. For Marin County specifically, Latinos are about 16% of the population, but by 2050, they're expected to be 25% of the population. Despite 16%, Latinos make up 19% of the workforce. Why? Because more than one job, in part. Also, sharing the Viva Marin report, many of you have seen this many times. It's been brought out over many months. First Five Marin partnered with Marin County Health and Human Services on this, and all the many people on the back that attended meetings over several years. But to repeat what we've shared before, some of the information that's buried in here is about, even though, because it started off as a health report, but we expanded it broadly. And some of the information that's buried is about the economic impact of Latinos in this county. And the numbers that we shared from Marin Economic Forum, that Marin Latino spending supports $38 million in state and local taxes, and Latino spending currently supports $500 million in business revenue in Marin County. And as Christian was saying, what would happen if we actually empowered all of the citizens of our state? And that leads me to the a part about living wages and fair wages. Latinos in Marin have a median household income of $48,662, as compared to the countywide median of $91,529. Aggregate income exceeds $710 million. But between $48,000 and $91,000, can you imagine what the economic impact would be if we actually had a comparable wage? We're going to go to our next panelist, but I just wanted to welcome the San Rafael Chief of Police. I saw her out front, and I invited her to come in just to say hello. Would you like to speak for one moment? I invited the chief in just because I've been impressed about some of the ways things are done differently here, and I especially like the way that you come into the community for positive engagements.
Thank you. Welcome everyone to our beautiful city. Most of you live here, and a lot of familiar faces, which is totally cool. Hello, Councilmember Colin, how are you? I have a meeting at 10 with the mayor, but I'll come back right after that. Welcome, great information. I'm looking forward to reading this stuff. Thank you for your words. Be strong, move on, and we'll move forward together. That's all I got.
And lastly, one more announcement because of what's happening at the border and with the separation of families and all of the fear and stress that goes along with that, which filters north, it filters statewide and nationwide. I just wanted to share another little resource that First 5 Marin has for those of you who work with children. We have a bilingual activity book from Sesame Street and Communities, and it's just some little coloring games and activities that parents can do with their children to help alleviate stress and to start conversations that can reassure children while we're dealing with the big picture. As we've been saying, it is also about the children, about their future. I have lots to give away. They're free, so see me after if you would like that. Now I just want to welcome our next panelists who are going to speak with us. Dr. Mara Perez, many of you know from Latino Futures, and Viridiana Acosta Ramirez from Canal Alliance. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Somebody maybe can give me directions to get this to work, or maybe somebody, could you do the slides for me? Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Latino Community Foundation, with whom I have a very, very strong relationship. I'm a member of the Giving Circle of San Francisco. I go to their events, their galas, and I truly admire the work that you do at the Latino Community Foundation, and the same goes for Canal Alliance, with whom I also have a long history. I'm now working with Omar. I was on the board for 10 consecutive years, and I have great admiration for the work, the mission, and the service the organization provides to the community and the vision that it has now as we move forward into other opportunities. We will wait a second, but in the meantime, I'll tell you that Latino Futures is a think tank project I created, which is part of my consulting. I've been a consultant with nonprofits for 20 years, mostly with the Latino community, many organizations here in Marin and in other areas. And, pardon me?
I don't think it's on there.
You don't think it's there?
Is it a flash drive, Mara?
I sent it to you. Mm-hmm. Let's see.
How about we switch while we're dealing with? Shall we do that? And
Yes,
have Viridiana
yes,
start,
yes.
And then we'll try to get that
I don't know if
loaded.
this works. Let's do that. I'll be back later. Enjoy. Coming soon.
Okay, well, that's all right. Buenos dias, good morning. My name is Viridiana Acosta Ramirez, and I am the Civic Engagement Supervisor for Canal Alliance. So I would like to start my presentation with a quote. So let's take a look at that. And it reads, "I wanted to change the world. When I was a young man, I wanted to change the world. I found it was difficult to change the world, so I tried to change my nation. When I found I couldn't change the nation, I began to focus on my town. I couldn't change the town, so I tried to change my family. Now, as an old man, I know the only thing I can change is myself. And suddenly, I realized that if long ago I had changed myself, I could have made an impact on my family. My family and I could have made an impact on our town. Their impact could have changed the nation, and I could have indeed changed the world." So I would just like you guys to think about that throughout the day. And it's such a powerful message that I think we can apply to our life, especially in this political climate. So Canal Alliance, who are we? So Canal Alliance is a nonprofit champion of immigrants who are challenged by lack of resources and an unfamiliar environment. We believe everyone has the right to achieve their dreams. Every day, we educate, empower, support, and partner with motivated immigrants to best meet their unique needs. From putting food on the table, to becoming American citizens, to graduating from college. Because when we invest in immigrants, Marin becomes the place where everyone can live, work, and succeed. So I work for the Immigration Legal Services Department at Canal Alliance, and in the post-election climate, there has been a lack of information about immigration that escalates misunderstanding and fear. And we have seen this much too often. Immigrants live in fear every single day, not knowing when deportation or unemployment may strike. Fear has only escalated with the Trump administration, inaccurate information, and unreliable journalism. Canal Alliance will not stand for this. As Marin's experts in immigration, we work tirelessly to share accurate information, credible advice to empower immigrants to feel safe. We encourage them to protect themselves and their families and become citizens. We also educate community members about how to support these hardworking immigrants and their quest to achieve their dreams. So how does Canal Alliance serve the Latino community in Marin? In order to talk about this, I want to take you back to the last presidential election we had. So when the staff at Canal Alliance found out the results, we all began strategizing to find out what we could do to help our community. In order to do this, we identified some very specific needs that our community had. So our community needed access to immigration services. That was key. Everyone was afraid, everyone wanted information. We had to increase our capacity to do so. Canal Alliance is located in the canal. And so, we're very close to many of our clients, but we are the only immigration legal services, or at the time, in Marin County. And so, not everyone lives in San Rafael, right? How are they going to access us? So we had to find a way to increase our capacity. Our clients required of other legal services other than immigration law. We only have immigration law at Canal Alliance. So how are we able to help these clients? And naturalization services. This was key. People were afraid. People, who were legal permanent residents now realized, hey, I need to become a citizen because I need to be able to vote for something else, for change. So what did we do? To access immigration legal services, we created the Mobile Immigration Legal Service Team. So our team is located in West Marin and in Novato. This way, we're able to reach more clients without having them to come to us. Transportation is sometimes an issue. Our clients work long hours. They don't have time to commute to Centerville and go back. So this was a huge help for them. We had to increase our capacity. The demand is high. So we decided to partner with other organizations. For example, right now we are partnering with the Social Justice Collaborative, which is a nonprofit in Oakland. And we have one of their staff attorney come twice a week to Canal Alliance. Again, access to immigration services, just coming to our offices, and provide removal defense consultations. Removal defense was not a service that we were offering at Canal Alliance, but we saw the need, so we had to meet that need. And other legal services. We noticed that aside from immigration law, people had other issues. And so began the Marin Pro Bono Network. Established last year, the Marin Pro Bono Network is a collaborative made up of other legal services serving Marin County, and they have areas of law such as elder law, employment law, and housing. Imperative areas that our community needed. And naturalization services. We had to meet the high demand for naturalization services. For many years, Canal Alliance would just do in-house appointments, right, for naturalization services, seeing clients one-on-one, but we were just not keeping up with that demand. So we decided to join the New Americans campaign, and I'll tell you what that's all about. So the New Americans campaign was established in 2011, and it aims to achieve a collaborative to have an impact on naturalization. The goal here is to increase the number of lawful permanent residents to become U.S. citizens. So New Americans campaign consists of national partners and sites. So the stars here outlined on the map are different sites that represent each area, right? So New York, Philadelphia, Atlanta. And then if you take a look at California, there are many stars, right? We have a huge population in California, so we need to meet that. And Marin County is a newly added star. There are 9 sites in California alone. So this tells you the need there is for naturalization services. And so we thought, we had to help meet that need. In the nation, there are about 9 million legal permanent residents that are eligible to naturalize. Currently, less than 1 million actually applies to naturalize. All right, so that's saying a lot about our numbers. So this is nationally, but what can we do here? So we created the New Americans Campaign Marin County site. So Marin's site consists of 6 different organizations. So we are Canal Alliance, Family and Children's Law Center, North Marin Community Services, the Marin County Free Libraries, Marin Organizing Committee, and San Rafael Public Library. We cannot do this alone. The need is very, very high. And so this is how we will achieve that goal. So Canal Alliance serves as the site leader, which means we're that link with the national partners and our county site. Obviously, we always think, oh, Marin County is pretty small, right? Maybe what is the need? Well, there are about 10,000 adults in Marin County that are eligible to naturalize right now. It's a big number. Napa County has around 6,000 adults that are eligible to naturalize, and their site has been going strong for a little over 5 years. So that just goes to show that those numbers are not met. The demand is still there, and a lot of work has to be done. So our goal is to be able to reach all of these lawful permanent residents that reside here in Marin County. And we need to work together to do that. Obviously, all these, we're very excited to reach this goal, 10,000 adults. That's a big number. And of all, and constantly people becoming lawful permanent residents, that number is also increasing every year. So how do we empower new citizens, right? Our goal is to help people become naturalized. And once they do, what happens? What do we do about it? So these are things that we want to advocate, right? Want them to be involved in advocacy, service, to vote, to educate. But how do we do this? So for new U.S. citizens, we always tell them, vote. Meet your representatives. Identify what your personal interests are. What motivates you? What will make you vote for certain issues over others? And research, right? So what are your interests? What are you about? How will you find out what candidate suits your needs best? What about everyone else? People that are not U.S. citizens. What can you do to empower these new U.S. citizens? You can vote. You can serve in public office, advocate for change, and volunteer. Help these new U.S. citizens find their passion. What are they passionate about? What are their interests? What will motivate them to vote? So I wanted to share with you a small anecdote that I had a couple weeks ago in this very same room. We had a celebration to celebrate our newest U.S. citizens that became citizens just within a year. Many of them had just done their oath ceremony a week prior to this ceremony, so it was very exciting. And after the ceremony, I spoke with many of the honorees and asked them, are you excited to finally get to vote? And they all had a big smile on their face and said, yes, but. I was like, uh-oh, what do you mean? And they were concerned about who they were going to vote for. They weren't sure. And they were asking me, what do you think? I was like, well, it's a very individual opinion. They're like, yeah, but I get all these pamphlets and I just hear news, things on the news, and I'm not sure. It's overwhelming. And most of the things are not in Spanish. Or if they are, I don't really understand still what they're saying. All right, so that was a concern. Well, I said, okay. I didn't really have an answer for them, but that made me think. This is something that we have to advocate for, So if this is something that, we're passionate about, we need to inform our newest voters how to vote. Like you mentioned, is there an election coming up? Yes. When is it? How do you go about registering? How do you go about finding out what your candidate stands for? So all of these things are important. Many of us grew up here. These are things we were taught in school. These are things we hear about throughout our years. And it's, it's difficult to do that. I recently became a naturalized citizen, and let me tell you, it is quite a lot to learn, to do that. And, and I grew up here, I went to school and college, but what about our new citizens who perhaps English is a second language? And even if they do have a basic English level, still, so many of these, so many of the information out there is still very confusing and complicated. So if you think of running for office, what can you do to help these new U.S. citizens? How will you guide them, with the right information, with correct information, that they will be engaged? Get them engaged, get them excited about things, but help them understand. So this is something that we all need to work on for our new citizens. And so we need to make a case for empowerment, right? So this is what we're all about. So what does this mean? So personal empowerment. By being civically engaged, individuals get a sense of identity, meaning, and direction. And they feel like they have a purpose among their community. They feel like they're a part of this community. Many times, new US citizens still feel like they're newcomers. So they need to engage to feel really like they're part of us, part of the community. So, you know, for many Latinos, they still have this looming over their heads. We don't belong. So we have to eradicate this and engage in our communities. Empowerment to diversify. So communities are at the center of civic engagement. And we all belong to a community in Marin County, but we can be part of a different community. For example, I'm part of the Latino community, the immigrant community, a pet lover community, right? These are things that I'm passionate about, that interest me. And it is good to join different communities because it empowers our Latinos to have, you know, to learn about different issues that are important to them. So it is important that they learn about how to advocate for these issues and the policies that affect them. And empowerment to learn. Through civic activities, individuals gain skills of communication, planning, decision-making, and leadership. So these are vital skills that give our Latinos the confidence to continue their civic duty throughout their entire life, as well as to encourage the younger generations to participate as well. So this is my mission, to empower the Latino community through civic engagement, because I see the power of civic engagement, and I want to see that civic engagement in action, to make something happen, to make something miraculous, and to make something real. There are revolutionary things happening in Marin County, and I want to extend this amazing opportunity to everyone to join us and be part of this empowering revolution. Thank you.
Hello again. The PowerPoint is on. Thank you. Oh. There you go. Well, I'm back. I was Mara Perez. I was mentioning that I created Latino Futures as a think tank-centered initiative, which is part of my consulting, in order to figure out ways to create Latino prosperity. My sphere is national, but it's also local. I have roots here in Marin County. I live in Marin County in Green Bay. I've had a very, very strong, long relationship with Canal Alliance, with Omar in his trajectory to executive director of the organization. We've been talking for a long time about these issues. We're good friends. And we began to think about ways to collaborate. And over the last several months, we have been doing precisely that. We have been collaborating on projects that have to do with Latino education, Latino workforce development, Latino prosperity. And we're doing that, and we're collaborating because we understand, we firmly believe in that these critical issues not only impact the Latino community, they impact the country. There is a very strong alignment in our values, in our vision. Canal Alliance is expanding in its advocacy sphere here in Marin, and Latino Futures is really centered on research and analysis. Latino Futures is comprised of me at the moment, me and partners. So I spend a lot of my time with the U.S. Census, the American Community Service, and with my computer doing research. Latino Futures is something I created because it's so connected to who I am. I'm a researcher. I look at numbers, I look at trends, I analyzed them. That was my training in graduate school. So other than continuing to do the work I was doing before, which was fund development and strategic planning, I thought there's something else I can do because the country has big problems and I'm just one person, but maybe I can make a little difference in a new way. And that's where Latino Futures comes from. I've partnered with Dominican University last year. Thank you, Latino Community Foundation, for being one of the speakers. We looked at the future of Latino prosperity. Thank you also to Kate for coming. And we advanced that. We are now working on the issue of Latino prosperity, building a roadmap to Latino prosperity. And so we continue to collaborate and tell you a little more about what we're doing. But first, we look at numbers that we know Latinos in the United States are very powerful in many ways, economically. A very robust purchasing power, a very robust ability to contribute to the economy through in what becomes gross domestic product, and Latinos in entrepreneurship. Some of you may know that of all the race and ethnicities that are creating, including whites, that are building businesses, that are creating new businesses in the United States, Latinos are leading the way, big time. They have obstacles to growing their businesses, however. That has to do with access to finance, access to resources, access to support and mentors and sponsors that can help them break those barriers and scale. But there are good organizations such as the Latino Business Action Network, associated with Stanford University, working precisely on that, on removing all the barriers that impact Latino entrepreneurship and allowing Latino businesses from throughout the country to scale significantly. So that's encouraging. Latino philanthropy, to which you referred earlier, we know that overall $24.5 billion from foundations yearly in grants. Latino causes, 1.1%, $260 million. At the same time, the Latino population in the United States continues to increase. It's going to be 30% of the population by 2050, some say by 2045. With the level of need that exists in the Latino community and the role that nonprofits play in supporting Latinos, when I see that, I really want to cry. It doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't make any sense that the funding community still continues to hold that strategy for funding. This is across the nation. It's a disservice not only to the nonprofits and the Latino community, but it presents a major, major issue to the country. In Marin County, we have serious issues also with the Latino community, and thanks to Canal Alliance, a lot of people have the opportunity to build better lives. I'm talking about Latinos. The low educational achievement and increases in poverty in this county are colliding. Increases in poverty. In 2010, Latinos living below the 50% of the poverty level amounted to 4.8%. In 2016, 7.6%. Think about that. 30% of high school graduating Latinos have achieved college readiness, compared to over 70% of whites and equally significant numbers among Asians. Blacks, unfortunately, are also as disadvantaged as Latinos. 35%. In Marin County and across the country, we know from research by Pew Research that individuals that achieve college education view their lives and their work as a career track with growth. People that only have a high school degree think of their job as a job just to get by. That's pretty tragic. What's really interesting is that as the Latino population in Marin County has been getting poorer. The Latino population in Marin County has been growing significantly. Between the years of 2010 to 2016, the white population grew by 2.4%. During the same period of time, the Latino population in Marin County grew by 14.2%, and projections for similar levels of growth among the Latino population continue, as do for whites. So we have a significant increase, and we see a trend in Marin County of Latinos continuing to increase in numbers, whites continuing to decline in numbers, and Latinos continuing to become poorer, and their educational levels not really showing signs of improvement, although there are a number of initiatives here like Marin Promise initiative. They're doing a lot of good work, but the numbers haven't really changed yet. It is dramatic. It shouldn't be that case. By 2050, Latinos will be about 30% of the population in the US. By 2045, it was projected that the United States would become a majority minority country, meaning that whites would drop below 50% of the total population. But if you look at the New York Times, just a few days ago, there are reports by a recognized demographic entity that found that whites are dying faster than they had been, and that they're dying faster than they're being replaced by whites being born in 26 states, up from 17 states 2 years ago. Therefore, the demographic shift for the US to become a majority minority country is expected now to occur before 2045. The shift they are projecting will be sooner than that. And the Latino population in the United States continue to underperform due to a host range of barriers that impede their advancement. I say, lo que urge, ruge. Carlos Fuentes, what a phrase. What's urgent roars. It roars across the country, and it roars in Marin County. And that's why Canal Alliance and I have been working together over the last several months, developing what we call our education issue brief. We are now, which is now ready, and we're now starting to work on a workforce development issue brief. We have the numbers, then we have the arguments, and then we have the propositions. And we will also have unveilings coming up later in the year, and you'll hear from us. I couldn't be happier to be collaborating with an organization of the reputation of Canal Alliance on these issues to bring attention to what we face as a county. That's what we're focusing on, what we face as a county over the coming years. Therefore, the message that we are sharing with everybody is, this is not about the Latino community exclusively. The need is local, regional, national. It pertains to all of us. When we are a majority-minority nation or a majority-minority county, we are going to need people with capacity to care for aging adults, to start and expand businesses, to develop new technologies in healthcare, in communications, you name it. And the numbers are there. If in 2 years, the population trend has changed so dramatically that it went from 17 to 26 states, with whites dying at a rate that they cannot reproduce because the birth rates are much lower, it's imperative and incumbent upon all of us to work very hard. It's an economic imperative. It's a social imperative. It's a humanistic imperative. But really, it has to do with the survival of the country, with ensuring that we have the capacity to build and bring up a population that can truly manifest its talents in all dimensions, because it's good for everybody. So as Latino Futures, I've created a project called Roadmap to Latino Prosperity. I'm collaborating with Omar Carrera and Canal Alliance, Dominican University, John F. Kennedy University, UC Berkeley. And we're looking at pillars for Latino prosperity: education, entrepreneurship, workforce development, and philanthropy. And we're looking at those through 3 vectors. So each of those pillars is examined in depth through 3 vectors: policy, institutions, and funding. And through that, and with the participation of a host of nonprofit leaders in convenings that I've partnered with other organizations to produce, through their own work, because these are very, very dynamic interactive forums, we are coming up with an actual roadmap to Latino prosperity. And on August 16 of this year, we're going to hold the second Roadmap to Latino Prosperity Forum, again at John F. Kennedy University, as a way to provide a tentative, or perhaps the way, but I don't believe I hold on the answers, but it is a contribution into how we might think about building Latino prosperity, which I personally emphasize as, I say Latino prosperity, but I think of it as Latino socioeconomic prosperity, so that that prosperity can be not just material, but it has to do with everything that can make a person prosperous: good health, opportunities, equity, and a sense of belonging in a community, in a broad community that welcomes them and needs them. So again, we really have to think about this very, very hard, because the trend is expanding and increasing and is getting to become bigger than what demographers and others thought. I leave you with that, and stay tuned for the unveiling of our educational issue brief, number 1, coming up in the fall with Canal Alliance. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. We want to continue now and give you all an opportunity to ask questions and to speak. If you have something that you want to share, we want to hear from you. So we have until 11:15 or 11:20. Omar, would you like to join the panel? And I wanted to begin with our Registrar of Voters, Linda Roberts, who is here to just share some data statistics about Latino participation in the voting process. And we're turning this around so you can address the audience as well.
Well, thank you. Oh, is this on?
It's just wireless, so it should be fine.
Oh, okay. Is that, oh, there we go. Thank you, and good morning, everybody. So I was invited to give you a few statistics, and I also wanted to get some key dates on your calendars at this point so you can be aware of what's coming up. So I was asked to give you some statistics about registration and the number of registered voters and the number of those registered voters who are Latino. And something you need to understand about these statistics is that when a person registers to vote, it's voluntary whether or not they want to indicate a language preference. And so these statistics are really limited. So just keep that in mind when you hear them. So I wanted to let you first know about our most recent election just a few weeks ago. And our number of registered voters in this election was 155,517 registered voters. Of that number, voters who had indicated language preference for Spanish was 400. And going back to the presidential primary and general election in 2016, so June 2016, our number of registered voters was 152,039 voters, and those who had indicated a Spanish language preference was 260 people. And in November of 2016, we had 160,795 registered voters, with 372 that had indicated a language preference for Spanish. So, like I say, keep in mind that that is definitely an optional disclosure that people make when they register to vote. So So it's fairly limited data.
And Linda, sorry, so it's only by language, they're not declaring any ethnic background?
Right. That's when you look at the form, what the question talks about is my language preference. So that's the question on the registration form. So some key dates that I really want to get on your calendars and your radar. First of all, for the upcoming general election, the date of the election is November 6th. So that obviously is a key date as you're talking to people. And the date to register, the last day to register for if a person wants to be on the roster, if they go to their polling place to vote, or if they want to have a vote by mail ballot mailed to them, the last day to register is October 22nd. Now, people can register all the time. It's very dynamic. People need to re-register if they move, change political affiliation, or change their name. So registration is fairly ongoing, but if a person is registering before a specific election, that October 22nd date is a key date. However, with a new law in place, people can register, I'm calling it late registration period. They can register from October 23rd up and through election day until 8 p.m. They can register using a paper registration form or online. And the online address is the Secretary of State's website. So that's www.registertovote.ca.gov. But if people register late, they have to vote in the elections department. That's a requirement, that they have to come to the department and register and vote if they register late. Yes, thank you. I was just thinking of that. We're in the Civic Center, and that is 3501 Civic Center Drive, and the Elections Department is in room 121. So some other important dates. If people want to vote by mail, or if they're already registered and they've selected to vote by mail, those mail ballots will be sent on October 8th. And the last day that we can accept a vote by mail application in the mail and mail a ballot is October 30th. After that, because a ballot may not get to somebody if we mail it later than October 30th, they can always come into the office and pick up a vote by mail ballot or vote there. And the day that we send the vote by mail ballots, October 8th, is also the first day that people can come to our office and vote. So those are some key dates to keep in mind. And thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. I also wanted to now just ask Vita Flores to join us. She has a table out front with registration forms. You want to come on down? I just wanted her to tell you a little bit more about the voter outreach that she's doing and how you can help.
Good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to be here to talk about the work that the Elections Department is doing. Right now we have a challenge, which is take the challenge. It's register 5 people before September 26th. September 26th is National Voter Registration Day. And so we're asking each of you to commit to picking up one of our packets, which has information in it. And the packet has a Spanish and English 5 voter registration forms and information on how to register people and how to vote by mail. We also have materials in this packet which invites many of you or many individuals to come and work at the Elections Department at the polling place for the election. So we're in great need for Spanish-speaking individuals, in fact, multilingual individuals to come and work at the polling places. We have information on voting by mail, is that the right choice for you, in Spanish and English. And the outreach materials are that we're looking at are very important to include Spanish, English, and also other languages we have at the Elections Department, including Vietnamese and Chinese. We have thousands of people here in Marin County who are not yet registered. In fact, we're up to approximately the last election, it was 20,000 people. So there are individuals who are non-college bound that need to have speak to. And it's important that we gain a specific amount of trust with our community. And so that's why we're asking you to register someone and also to commit to them. Voter registration is just one of the pieces in voter engagement. We have to register people, we have to give them information on how to vote, and we have to encourage them to come to the ballots. So the Elections Department has created, voter timelines in Spanish and English, voter information on who is eligible to vote, and it's really important that we engage our non-citizens to become influencers in the community, because maybe they can't participate in the process, but they are concerned with the environment. They're concerned with traffic and buses, transportation, and housing, and they can influence those around them. In fact, they can influence their children. So this information is for you to pick up at the Elections Department table out front, and just commit to registering or try to register 5 people by September the 26th. So you've got lots of time to speak to people, and it's our community, and as my father used to say, it's our duty as residents in our community, and it's not based in citizenship, but as a residents, it's important for us to all engage in the community and be part, and to live an active life and really work together. So it reinforces everything that we've heard here today from our panelists. So I hope that you'll take the time to come and visit me at the table out front to pick up your voter registration packet.
Thank you, Vida. For those people who are taking a packet, could you just quickly go over the things they need to remember to make sure the registration is valid?
In fact, everything that you need to know is right here on this card. So we're asking you to be a United States citizen, to be 18 years of age, but we have a new law here in California where we're pre-registering 16 and 17-year-olds. We ask that you are currently not in a state or federal prison or on parole for a conviction of a felony, not currently found mentally incapacitated, and we do have the pre-registration for 16 and 17-year-olds. So it's going to be a big focus for the Elections Department coming up in the next year or so, that we pre-register all of our voters. In California, we've done a great job with our Secretary of State, Alex Padilla, to really engage the young Latinx community, so that they will, once they vote for the first time, they'll be regular voters. So we know that through education, if they're engaged in 3rd grade, that there's a higher relationship of them graduating high school. If they graduate high school, there's a higher relationship of them being engaged in the community and registering them to vote. And so there's lots of data out there that says once you vote on a regular basis, after 2 or 3 times, you become a lifelong voter.
Thank you. And then just lastly, for the high school students, they can register early. They just have to be 18 by election day.
Yes, we will pre-register voters, and the great thing, Alex Padilla will send them emails and try and engage them in the future and try and get them involved and encouraged in the community. So once they become 18, they'll receive information in the mail that, yes, it's your turn to vote.
Great. Thanks so much. And Kate, did you want to share a little bit about the San Rafael activities? Okay, great. Well, we may get to that. So now we want to take time for your questions and also for your comments, and we're going to do that from the podium here. Okay, we have a first speaker. You're welcome to ask a question of the panel, or if you want to share something, we'll just take turns. And we just wanted to make sure that we allow enough time for everyone to speak. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm Spanglish, as means be with me. My name is Marilusa Redondo, and many of you, they know me, Cindy. I came to United States maybe like 25 years ago, and yes, I'm come to Canal area. Basically, I know what they're talking when they say about support to immigrants. And I be American citizen also 3 years ago. And but after that, I decided to make something different in my life, because we struggle here in Marin County. And the big issue we have is we don't have a protection, real protection for victims of crime. I facing in 1997, my son was kidnapped here in Marin. And I don't find my son until 15 years later, basic because we don't have the resources we was looking for. And yes, we really appreciate it for Canal community, and we really appreciate it for family law and other agencies. But it's very difficult when you're looking for these resources, when sometimes the agencies, they don't really help you, because that what made me feel in that time, and more times, and also same to another victims, like a little football ball, like just they throw you here, and just they listen your situation, your struggles, but they ain't able to do anything. So when I found my son, that was very difficult, and I get some support for domestic violence of peace. I really thank you. But I think right now the agencies doesn't work anymore like we need to. And that's why when I see the numbers right now about the poverty, like a 40% poverty of our children's, is because 75% of our children are in juvenile system. 75%, the African American, they don't have a voice. Our children suffer from many problems like suicidal thoughts, and many of them, they're committing suicide already. So when I decide to standing up, I standing up for myself, for my family, for my children's, and also I say if I able to make it, somebody else will do it too. So this is a warning situation we have here for our community and for all the agencies. Like we really appreciate it, like what they do, but I think the family is the foundation for not only for one community or for one city or for in particular Canal. The family is foundation for this country, for this state, and for the whole entire world. And I guess it's time to the funds they receive, they have to be also get part of this money to support the victims. Because when they are victims, I have many victims, families, they are children, they have daughters with rape, and many of theirs, but they don't have the support they need. And I know some agencies just they send it to, okay, go legal aid, go self-center, go this way, and this is not a way. I think they had to they had to make the money if they organization to support it immediately. Don't throw away like that. So that's my name, and my name is Marin Arredondo, and I am sending information not only for our communities to the law, for the law enforcement. The police sometimes even they don't listen to the victims, or sometimes even they don't come when they call them, like as an emergency, like happened right now in Canal. And I think it's the time to even the government for Sacramento come and make investigations, because we are without no protection. And I really appreciate it for your forum, and I really appreciate it to everyone to do something different. But I think it's time to put attention in the families.
Great, thank you so much.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Maika Llorens Gulari, and I have two hats. One, I'm the executive director for Slide Ranch, but I'm also on the school board. So I wanted to announce that the school board is an elected position. Right now, we have it's 5 of us. I'm the first Hispanic person in San Rafael on the school board. We have over 7,000 students, and over 60% of our kids are Hispanic. And I am the first Hispanic person on the school board. So we would love to have more. This year in November, there are 2 seats available. My seat will be available in 2020, and that's like 3 seats. So I encourage people to really think about it, because again, it's important to have our community represented in the government. So I'm an immigrant. I came here 22 years ago, and I'm just celebrating 10 years of my citizenship. And I'm just so thankful about the census and the registrations, because my first language, if you haven't noticed, is actually Spanish. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know that I actually put that my first language was Spanish when I registered. And some of it is because some of the Spanish translations are not the best. So I'd rather get the information in English before I actually vote. So that's one. The second one is like, I really want to tell everybody about the census. When I got it, I was very nervous about it, and I'm already a citizen, and I don't have anything to be nervous about. But there is so much personal information in that census that I wonder, like, okay, maybe I can start talking to people about the census and how important it is to register so we get represented. But I wonder if you have like any video, anything that we can share in social media that is kind of like friendly and describes how safety it is or how easy it is. So that's kind of like my question. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so with respect to your question, so the part of the problems that's going on with the Census Bureau is that they're underfunded. So normally in normal census counts, they would have the budget to produce videos or promotional materials so people can use it, right? I still hope that still happens. All of this happens at the federal level. It depends on how much they're funded. But I mean, for me, the most important part is just telling stories like what you just said right now. People talking to one another in the community about how important the census is. Because the reality is no one's going to pay attention to a YouTube video. You know, it can be the greatest YouTube video ever, but it's going to matter so much more if your grandma is telling it to you or your teacher, because I know there are a lot of people who work in schools here. More likely than not, people are actually going to listen to those type of people in the community. So, of course, more videos and like funny cartoons are going to be made about, you know, filling out the census. But before that happens, like, I mean, it's so important for just people from the community to start that conversation about what this is, why it matters, and how to actually do it. And I think another thing that I didn't mention was this is the first census that's going to go online. And so there's a huge digital divide between Latinos and everybody else when it comes to having access to a computer, let alone a smartphone, right? And so, you know, how do we get every single library in this community open so people can actually fill out the census? I've actually been long promoting for I mean, is Levine's office still here, or McGuire's office, to open up their district offices for when the census count actually happens, to have every government official open up their office and say, hey, come fill out your census, this is super important. So just having voices from actual people in the community versus, you know, a video, right? but even then, if it isn't video, maybe this is something that, you know, teenagers can do. And it's just a question of how that gets funded. But even then, all it takes is for a kid just to make a quick video and put it on YouTube, and they can share it amongst themselves. And the last point I'll make on this is that, for me, you guys are probably seeing what's happening with the Parkland students and how everything that's going on with gun violence in this country. Young people are awake now, and us as community members need to make sure that we're giving the tools to our young people to get them activated and angry and just mobilized to get out to vote and to actually you know, get people counted in the census. Because more often than not, you know, young people, you know, they're no different from the rest of us. They hurt, they have real feelings, and, you know, let them be the ones to take the lead in the community to get a lot of this stuff done. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, but thank you for that question.
Thank you. Anyone else wanted to respond? Great. Dave?
I think Omar was going.
Omar, please.
Omar Carrera, Canal Alliance. All I want to say, we cannot ignore our responsibility to educate the community around the census. Is a lot, there's a risk. Is political representation, allocation of resources. The maps at the county and city level can be redesigned. So it's a lot. But we are getting educated ourselves because it's a lot of things that have changed, right? From only hiring U.S. citizens to educate the community, to use technology platform to vote, to add the question around citizenship. So we as an organization are trying to educate ourselves first, and then we can start organizing how this education is going to take place in the county. But it's going to take all of us to be able to bring that information.
Hi, my name is Dave Curry, and I'm part of Marin Housing Solutions, and I believe in home. I've got a question, some information, and then an ask. Okay, so I know there's some people, including Omar, thank you for that, who have been involved in the county-run assessment of fair housing. Who else in this room knows what that means? Okay, a dozen. That's great. That's good. That's more than I've usually run into, but this is a pretty sophisticated crowd. It is a process that's required by the federal government as part of the money that they give out for home and CDBG funds to look at the impediments to fair housing choice in every jurisdiction in America. And the county passed a work plan in July 16 that actually called for 2 public meetings and 3 Board of Supervisors meetings over the following year and a half. None of those occurred. The first one was 2 weeks ago, 2 years later basically, and I found it lacking, unfortunately. I think there's a lot of room here for advocacy. My understanding, it's hard to vote in a community if you don't live in the community. And I think what we are suffering is basically a plantation economy where our workers are forced out because of high rents and high housing prices, and that the impediments to fair housing is a critical opportunity to look at those forces so that those impediments can be addressed, so we get a more diverse representation in our population, that the people who live in the canal area can continue to live there. People who live and work in West Marin can continue to live and work there. The median household income has grown to over $100,000. The median wage, the median wage, who needs the microphone? The median wage in Marin is $48,000. So right there, the need for housing on the standard scales is for very low income housing. That's very hard to provide under the current zoning and financing structures in Marin. So what we stand for is renter protection and fair and affordable housing, okay? So my ask of all of you is take this card from me, and it's a website that has a survey about housing options. If you would go on there and direct 100 of your closest friends to go on there as well to fill out that survey, that would be a powerful indication to the county, which in this case represents all the cities as well. Everywhere from Sausalito to Novato, they all get federal funds. So everybody has a role in suggesting what the impediments are and what you need from housing. This survey is just one way of doing that. I wish the county had done that, but this is your opportunity. Thank you very much.
Did you read the URL? Did you announce the URL?
The URL is on the
Just
card.
for the video, you might want, just give yourself a little plug in case people watch this online.
It's www.housingsolutions.org.
Great. Thank you.
Good morning. I just want to remind us, it's something that we probably, most of us in the room already remember, but that access to the goals of Latino Futures and our Latino youth begin in the very early years of life. We know that research has shown for years that the experience of children in their first 5 years of life has everything to do with their success later on in school and in career and in family and in becoming a productive citizen. If you remember, a few years ago, we had an item on the ballot that would have put a small percentage of sales taxes into early childhood programs in our county, which would have significantly affected our Latino families, because we know that our Latino children are the ones that miss out the most on a good early childhood education in their first 3 to 5 years of life. So, registering people to vote is great. Next time we have that on the ballot, we will have more voters who know how important those first 5 years of life are to the future of our Latino families and all of our families in Marin. And so I just congratulate this group on the work that they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Terry DiMartini. I've been involved in early childhood in Marin for about 40 years. Right now, I'm working with the College of Marin with the Sardiman Institute.
Thanks so much.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for presenting. My name is Hannah Saeed. I am the Culture and Diversity Manager at Golden Gate Regional Center. So you spoke about the United States becoming a majority-minority nation, highlighting the death-to-birth rate ratio among people of white descent. I can imagine that this statistic may be uncomfortable for people of white descent. And because of that discomfort, I feel like these statistics are a catalyst for the Trump administration to justify the encampment and deportation of minorities in order to preserve the whiteness of the nation. So my question is, how do you suggest we use these statistics to demonstrate to people of white descent, especially Trump supporters, that having a nation of minorities is not threatening, rather beneficial? How do we rebrand this, particularly to Trump supporters that seem to need more justification, especially since they have a heavy voting power and current voice in this nation?
That's a tall order. We can look back and see populations that were discriminated in this country before us, Italians, the enslavement of blacks, and we can look forward and see the contributions those populations have made in our country. And perhaps by highlighting those immigrant experiences, we can extrapolate and show that we shouldn't fear. We should actually embrace new opportunities. I am sure that the numbers are terrifying a lot of people. Demographers talk about it. You know, when I was in graduate school at the University of Chicago, my dissertation advisor is a very well-known demographer, Douglas Massey. He's now at Princeton. I heard him on NPR maybe 6 months ago. He was talking about these numbers, and he was talking about the fear that this may represent, and the fact that some people may just not change their minds because of the great fear they feel. So he talked about advocating and engaging those that we believe have an open mind. I think there are some hearts and minds we're not going to change. But there are others that the more they hear these opportunities that the country has by engaging, in this case, the Latino community in its growth, the numbers may increase. By highlighting the achievements of some renowned Latinos and by highlighting the achievements of unknown Latinos, so that they can see that no matter where you may be in the visibility scale, let's say it, you can still be making contributions in your community and within your family, in your school, at any level, and that we're not to be feared. We're not here to damage things. We're here to make contributions. Those of us that have become citizens have embraced the United States, although we haven't pushed aside our own identity. we're here to work, we're here to go to school, we're here to, grow. And so the more we can advance that non-threatening perspective, we may expand our numbers and the numbers of people that will have an open mind and won't be terrified. That's the positive side. But I do think that some people won't come along. Thank you.
Hi, Jamie Cortez. I have first a question as a Red Cross community outreach member of Marin. Our request is that those of you that we need representatives of our community to be Red Cross volunteers. As you know, with the shelter, we had a shelter here in Marin, and there were many times when the shelter was closing, we did not have Spanish speakers to help, and especially clinicians. So I would say anyone. I know we've worked with other organizations, but please contact me. I'm the community outreach liaison, because as we know, there's fires happening now. It's fire season, and so we always want to make sure that we are able to support those that are in the shelter. But my question is actually, as a Latina board member of the San Rafael Public Library, and I hope not to put Councilmember Kate on the spot here, but I know there was only one community outreach to get more Latinos on the board, and we actually didn't end up that we received any participants, or I think anyone who even applied. And so a question for Kate, but also the members here, is sort of what tactics are we using to really make this happen, and what kind of outreach? And then do you have any tactics or outreach to maybe provide us to be able to, get more Latinos on the boards? Thank you.
Never worry about putting me on the spot. I live for that. So it is a process. Boy, this isn't very loud, is it, today? And we're trying to go where people are. So we did have an outreach event at B Street Community Center, really well attended. A lot of people in the room were also there. But coming to events like this, the Marin Latino Leaders Luncheon, we were there. So really, that's one of the tactics we're doing. The other, I would love to hear more. We're trying to have some of that information available online, but the reality is, you need to have all that information in an easy to digest way. So we found that the cards are a really good way to do it. In terms of applications, we need more people applying. So, and also to remind people that even when you apply, you might not get selected. So I applied twice to the Planning Commission before I was selected 10 years ago. So I think it's reminding people of that. I would be very curious of any other tactics that our panel could speak to. Because it is an ongoing issue. How do we get the information to where people are, and how do we get them to apply and to put their hat in the ring, as it is? Love to hear more.
Always when you're trying to resolve complex issues or tasks, a simplistic strategy or one strategy is not enough. And I can speak up for Canal Alliance. We are trying to increase diversity at all levels, the board, or executive team, but without an intentional leadership pipeline within the organization, nothing of that will happen. I didn't become an executive director by design. So I know about the challenges that people of color have when you are trying to give them in a space for them to participate. So I think there's an invitation back to us, what else can be done? I don't think it is bad, it only maybe happen only once or twice. Is what else needs to happen, and what is the role that each of you have to make sure that those numbers increase. Going back to Kate's comments in the beginning, yes, we all want to impeach him. Well, you didn't say that, I said that. But there's a lot of things that we had to do locally. Our public libraries, our recreation centers, our nonprofits. So what else can you do to help that? As an organization, I will say maybe I didn't promote enough those opportunities. I should do more about that. But also, when those individuals get there, are the institutions ready to welcome them? Mm-hmm. Are the institutions ready to include them? Maybe you need to provide bilingual information. Are we ready for that? So really it's more about what all of us can do more than what one person can do.
If I may add something, is what you're talking about, Omar, is building trust in the institutions. The Latino heritage, we come from countries where we don't trust institutions because of so many things have happened. In my case, I lived during the dictatorships. Almost my entire life in Argentina was under dictatorships, like 65% of it, 68% of it. I did the math, I don't remember precisely. And people that come from other countries, imagine people that come from Guatemala or El Salvador, trusting institutions. So what can our institutions do to encourage relationships and build them over time to get to that pipeline that you're talking about? There is a certain hesitation on the part of members of the Latino community to jump in and do things, either because of previous experiences or because of that fear of true embracing of their leadership and participation and contributions. So along the lines of working on recruitment, we need to always be thinking about how do our institutions build trust. And you said something that's key, Omar, which is building it from within the institution so that people can see that they are also represented. There are others that are like them. And it's a puzzle, it's difficult, but I think there are ways to do it. But trust building is critical. Latinos have hesitation when it comes to institutions.
Thank you. Olivia?
Let's try to do just a few minutes each so we give everyone a chance.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Olivia Beltran. I usually tend to talk under two hats, the nonprofit sector, kind of welcome center, and my own voice. I think more than anything, also I have my Indian voice, and I want to ask my ancestors to guide my words and to speak from a good spirit, and for everyone to take things not personally, but just recognize that we all have a lot of work to do, even though we're doing a lot. So I want to recognize Canal Alliance for all the work that's been doing for this many years, also the Latino Foundation for providing funding for important programs. I want to acknowledge Sandy Ponick, because it's been at Canal Alliance forever, supporting our families. I have a question that I don't want to forget, and this is going to be for the panel. What are we going to do in order to make a cap for rents not to continue going up for our low-income communities? And in terms of the Canal Welcome Center, has been doing a magnificent work. It has a lot of terrific programs. It's developing leadership among youth, and is using the healing circles, indigenous concepts for healing within our communities. And it recently did a collaboration with the Red Cross, and they were installing smoke alarms, the youth and the volunteers. And to just highlight the level of fear in our communities, we pre-register people through the food distribution. And we had a good number of families that wanted their alarms installed. But when the Red Cross showed up with the white men in uniforms, 1 out of 5 families said no thank you. So just to highlight the fear in our communities, and then I'm gonna swing into my personal expression. And I feel that every single one of us should wear the 2 caps. That's extremely important. Under an institution, under a job, we have to monitor our way of speaking. We cannot step on each other's toes. But as a personal, we gotta have our gut feeling and come out. Let me tell you, I resigned Canal Welcome Center's job. Tomorrow is my last day. Why? Because we have a limit of what we can do. As a citizen of this nation, I ask myself, why do I have to monitor my words when Sheriff Doyle represents a sheriff association and he can go and lobby to dilute SB 54? Sheriff Doyle can go and talk with all politicians because he hangs out with them every day, and he can influence them to destroy our families, to separate them. Yes, they commit crimes. There's a percentage of our population that commits crimes. There's no question. There's no doubt about that. But why do you feel so compelled as a society to punish a specific population more than others? They comply with their sentence, didn't they?
They were in jail for their time frame they needed to go. Why are you compelled to punish them more, to separate them with their families, turn them into ice? How come Doyle has so much power? He hasn't been, how do you call that when someone runs against you? He hasn't been challenged. And what I learned in community is that he hasn't been challenged because people are afraid, even when they're sheriffs or police officers. They're afraid because they said it's going to be career suicide if they run against them and they lose. So what kind of democracy is that? What kind of citizenship we are to allow those kind of things to happen? In the first place, all of us were silent. There are over 3,000 nonprofits in Marin County. How come they don't have a voice to advocate for the real things, the real voice? But Doyle does. So tell me, I cannot understand. I cannot understand how we cannot have a voice, but he has all the power to do so much destruction. And we bring it home because here, every single one of the people that own property are separating families. They're destroying them, each of you, with the greed that you have, raising the rents more and more and more, and pressuring families. Do you know what the families are going through right now? The police department gets the calls. Here in San Rafael, come on over because this Latino family is making a lot of noise. And guess what, Latino family? If you keep on making that noise, I'm going to call ICE on you. What kind of society each of us is within our communities? What are we doing to contribute to the destruction of our daily lives, our daily families? If you keep on raising the rents, it's saying so much about you. You don't care about families. You can donate a little bit of your percentage to get your tax deductibles. But guess what? That child has to go do their homework in the restroom because there's no other place. And the house, crowded house. Why is it a crowded house? Because they need to pay the rent and the basics. Do we have a heart? There's surveillance all over. No one has raised any issue about that. Why do we need surveillance all over? In San Anselmo, now the police comes all the time and harass people that are just staying in their cars or because they have a blanket on the back of their truck because they don't want homeless there, right? Everyone in Marin County has the responsibility for homelessness, but they're pushing it all into the canal. Who cares about those poor people? They have enough problems. Now who cares if they're going to be exposed to more headaches and more pain? Given so more, they can handle it. But all Marin County has the responsibility to take a little piece of that responsibility. It shouldn't be placed only upon the poor people. So, no matter what we're doing in the nonprofit, we're just running our wheels. There's never enough capacity. We can serve a group of 60 leadership group. Is that enough? There are thousands of youth that are getting into drugs, becoming addicted. I gotta cut it out, so give the word to everyone else. But each of us gotta think about what we're doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Olivia.
I saw us following my colleague Olivia in line. I said, oh no, I know it's going to be great. And so actually what she said was very similar to what I'm going to say, and I would just like to take a second of my time in silence to honor what she just said, because she said it better. Thank you. My name is Tamala Fish, and I'm going to talk to you as a self-classified Caucasian woman in Marin County. And I'm going to call Kate on the spot, Super Council Member Collins as well, sorry, unofficial. Because I was actually saddened this year to watch the San Rafael City Council not reject empowering Latino voters by not giving them a unified district when we had the potential to do that. And I specifically wanted to call out and thank Councilwoman Collins for really supporting that and being one of the few people in our government that I've really seen stand up and really try to push stuff forward. And I see her alone all too often. And on that, I'm also happy to hear that the Canal Alliance and other organizations are partnering more with surrounding communities. I'm very excited about the Oakland connection because, unfortunately, just like my colleague Olivia said, I see all too often, not specifically in Marin County, but all too often around the Bay Area, nonprofits are so limited by their tax situation where they can't remain a nonprofit if they speak up, but that's what they need to do. And it is so hard to get people who don't feel empowered to go do that unless they can follow behind and have somebody show them. I think it's probably we can all understand that borders are artificially created. There are borders, but they're artificially created, and throughout history, humankind has migrated. So, you know, I remember the t-shirt. I was in Texas one time, and somebody had a t-shirt. I didn't cross the border crossed me, right? So true. Even Marin County, when we look at, you know, the San Rafael Mission, which we're named after, what was it? It was an immigrant community that basically they took over, but well, that's a whole nother day. So, really what I wanted to come up and say is that I don't know if it's because of the nonprofit divide or if it's because we are underrepresented in political areas, but really I see, or the other reason I was wondering if it's because we don't have public transportation. We're the one county not connected to anybody else. And that is what I see and wanted to ask you for. Why are we not connected to other people? We have got to get connected more to our Oakland, San Francisco communities that are doing more action on this. I understand the legal complications. I understand the travel complications. I understand that sometimes I'm the only white person in a big group of people of color, and that's uncomfortable. But we have got to get beyond that. We are getting a reputation throughout the entire Bay Area and California as a standalone racist county. Do you want to be that? Do you know that's happening in the papers now? Do you know that's happening in the communities now? What does it take to get us up off our booties and across a bridge and helping other people? Okay, I'm gonna calm down because Olivia got me all worked up. So here's my specific ask. I really like that Dave had a specific ask. He's a mentor too, so I'm gonna follow his model here on the podium. It was announced this weekend that there's a formal naval weapons station in Concord that is being targeted to become a child detention center. Is this bad enough to engage Marin County residents? They're not gonna put a child detention center in Marin simply because the cost of housing is too high. We're moving all you out. We don't want more coming in. We're gonna capture you and move your kids to Concord. Are you affected yet? I hope so. It's gonna take more than the Latino community to empower the Latino community, the Black community, the Filipino community. We are all the same people. So please, white Caucasian people like me, get up, get off that bridge, get on your Facebook, get to these city council meetings and support these single people like Council Member Collins. We miss such a great opportunity. Let that be the last opportunity we miss. A diverse community is a healthy community. We will struggle and die if we become a white-only rich community. It's in your best interest. Thank you.
We really wanted to give each person a chance to speak, so just 1 or 2 minutes. Great, thanks.
My name's Kathy Kipp. I work for Community Health and Prevention, County of Marin, and I have some good news I want to share. Marin County has not been involved in Binational Health Week in quite some time. I am changing that. I am organizing Binational Health Week here in Marin. It's going to take place the whole month of October. That's what our group has decided. We have organized, we are in the process of organizing 7+ events taking place all around Marin. We will top off our Binational Health Month with a First 5 communication forum on Latino health. So we haven't planned it yet, but
Health equity.
Excuse me?
Health equity.
Health equity, Latino health equity or health equity, something to that effect. It will happen on the last Monday in October. You know, it's a little early for the flyers to come out. We haven't got all the dates set in stone yet, but I want everyone to know that we are having Binational Health Week in Marin, and this is something where we celebrate immigrants, specifically Latino immigrants in this country. It's countrywide, it's nationwide here, it's worldwide. We have a couple of Latin country consulates that are coming to our opening ceremonies, and maybe we'll have some other dignitaries. But please join us. You will hear about it and see about it in our flyers. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Elaine Tokolahi from the Center for Volunteer and Nonprofit Leadership. And in that capacity, I just wanted to say thank you. I'm here learning and figuring out how to include all of this information into our strategic plan. Now I'll switch gears and become a private citizen. I worked for the U.S. Census Bureau in 2010 as a partnership specialist and have some inside knowledge regarding how they operate. What is pretty funny is they have kept the 2010 email list alive and seem to be sending outreach information to our old email addresses. This brings to mind, I had a census.gov email and a Gmail account, but we all used our Gmail, much to the dismay of public workers. But so all of the Census Bureau public partnership specialists are still receiving information from the Census Bureau, including information that the Census 2020 regional convening is happening on July 12th, and it's public, and they're asking for information from organizations and individuals who want to inform the public outreach strategy for the hard-to-count communities. And the way that the partnership bureau partnership wing used to operate is that they operated with complete count committees. So if San Rafael had a complete count committee so that we could focus on where our hard-to-reach areas are, that would be really beneficial. The U.S. Census Bureau at the federal level delegates to the state, that delegates then to counties, etc. So we just have to inform that process and say, we want it to happen here, so that we can have our libraries serving as places where people can fill out the census. We can have questionnaire assistance centers. Basically, the people who work for the Census Bureau are everyday people, and they just need some direction from people like us. What's funny is that I didn't know that this convening series was happening, and the rest of the Bay Area convenings have occurred already. And so this is the very last one that we could possibly participate in. So I'd like to send that.
And where is that July 12th meeting?
July 12th at the Women's Building, 3543 18th Street. In San Francisco, 9 to 12:30. I'll attend or send the Eventbrite around to the organizer, so hopefully everybody can go. Thank you.
Thanks. And we'll post that on Marin Communications Forum and First 5 Marin Facebook pages. Alexandra?
Hello, everyone. First, I wanted to thank First 5 and everyone here. Thank you for providing this platform for us to all gather. I saw a really really amazing group of leaders here today. And I want to touch on something that's going to, I hopefully, hit home. And that is that we can't make any change if we don't unite. I have seen in this community that you will have one organization put up a community meeting, another organization put up another community meeting, and people are very selective as to where they go. But neither organizations are united in putting it all together. And we cannot advance these issues if we do not unite. There's strength in numbers. And we are here, but we don't show up when it's time. And quite frankly, I can't really sleep at night knowing that there's so much work to be done, and I don't have my colleagues near me. I just really want to encourage us all to just come together. Yes, it's about building Latino leadership, but we also have the power to push people in power to make a change. I hear, let's build Latino power, let's build Latino leadership. Yes, let's do that. But why don't we also build the leadership right now? Why isn't the leadership in place right now? Why don't they have the capacity and the diversity in their hearts to do the right thing? That's what I'm talking about. And I'm talking about, don't be afraid to have that uncomfortable conversation. We need it. We need to be uncomfortable. You know why? Because if we're not uncomfortable in our seats, we are not learning. And I just can't see how humankind can advance without the learning opportunities. I want to thank Olivia for her courage. Thank you for standing up here today, sharing your vulnerabilities and your courage. That's leadership, when you stand up and say what you know works and what doesn't. I have come across myself in this county within a racial divide. My daughter has experienced times when we were racially insulted. And then you wonder why our children grow up angry, why they don't get involved. And honestly, why she wanted to kind of get out of the car and also get violent. Really? Is that what we want to give our kids? I just ask that we really look at ourselves. This is a really important time for reflection and for unity. And this has got to stop. We have to rise. Come on, people, let's rise. This is what our county needs. Marin County needs to show up. Show up.
Thank you, Alexandra. Okay, one more?
Actually, just had a quick question for the panel, or perhaps it's for the voter registrar. I was wondering if there was any way you can guarantee that there would be no immigration or ICE coming to homes of voters who had registered, or any folks who had completed information for the U.S. Census. Does anybody know the answer to that, whether any of that information can be tapped into by the federal government to track down folks who they're looking for?
I can answer on the census piece. I can answer on the census piece. I mean, technically, by law, any answers on the census form cannot be shared with any authorities. The problem is that now that we're living in this climate of fear and anxiety, who's going to believe that, right? And so that's why, like, it's very important to go to that July 12th meeting, whoever mentioned it, to talk about what exactly is the message to immigrant communities and who in the community actually gets the word out, whether it's Canal Alliance or any other organizations, because I mean it hasn't been quite done before. What I'm just afraid of with this president, it's just one day he'll just
You just never know.
He'll just wake up,
I
yeah.
mean,
So so we wrote a letter to Secretary Ross, who oversees the census. He's the Department of Secretary of Commerce, which the Census Bureau goes underneath. And he wrote back to us saying, like, please tell people about the protections. And it's like, dude, like, you're creating this climate of fear. Like, you yourself added the citizenship question. So of course people are too afraid to fill it out, right? I'm not sure about the voting piece, but technically by law, you're not supposed to share that. But I don't know if that's the right message. And you guys here from the community know, like, what people are actually feeling about things like that.
I would just say, obviously, as part of the Canal Alliance, we just want to encourage people to become citizens, right? Because of this fear, because of everything that this administration has instilled, then we have to encourage, especially, like I mentioned, there is a huge number of potential new U.S. citizens in Marin County, and we need to just focus on that and let them know, hey, you can participate, you can be part of the community, you can have a voice and feel safe while doing so, but, let's apply. Let's, become a U.S. citizen when the opportunity is there. We have, with the new collaboration we built through New Americans campaign, we're trying to get to everyone. And Canal Alliance also offers citizenship classes. I mean, we're trying. We have so many volunteers that have come out to help us with that. And so, at least in my role, that is what I'm really interested in, is having people feel safe by becoming U.S. citizens, by letting them know, hey, once you fill out all this information, it's okay.
Right, so that individual would be safe. However, if they're living in a home with other folks who are not U.S. citizens, aren't they potentially putting those people at risk as well? I mean, or can we guarantee that they would not be putting those people at risk if they were to file for citizenship themselves? Is there?
Unfortunately not. That's just the reality. And even when someone is filling out an immigration form, usually they'll ask them about family members. We omit that information, right? You know, it'll ask, are they permanent resident? Are you a U.S. citizen? We just don't answer it. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, that was the last one, but one more. Can't say no to Florencia.
Just something that I do know it is important. If you want us as a Latinos to participate in different boards, in different settings where our voice is needed, it is important to also respect. There is a gender discrimination, not just in this county, but everywhere. But there is definitely. We want to participate. We do have the voice, but we do not still have the respect. We do not have still the treatment that has to be with dignity, with kindness, with compassion, also with the accent that we have. It is important to train everyone who is in boards, everybody who is in different settings where don't want us or haven't been trained in their ear to hear accent, to hear people talking with challenges because it's not our language. But still, we wanted to participate. Still, we wanted to contribute. I represent my country, El Salvador. I don't represent right now any organization than just myself and my country and my people, and why I came to this country because of our civil war, why I needed to separate from my family, from my twin sister who I didn't see for 14 years, and for my younger brother who I didn't see for 18 years. But I am in this country trying to support not just my family and my community, but the community in general in Marin, not just Latinos, but everyone. But at the same time, when we want to participate, we do have closed doors. When I participated last year in a very important place where I thought I might be a board member, who knows, but I will try. What I hear after I participate, this is not in your level. Your English is still not good enough. Your accent is strong. It's so strong that people cannot understand you. What that makes me feel, who I'm being involved and engaged in this community for such a long time, and still I have to hear that. And if I hear that, how my families, how our community members, how our residents, how our little girls, little boys will feel in the schools when we don't give them the voice, we say we're gonna give them the voice, but then we don't respect our differences. So this is important. We're trying to build Latino power. Let's try to also build the leadership that Alex was talking about, and all those other different members, board members, with other city councils, supervisors. You want us? Let's train them to have us. Let's educate them to have us on board and really working together. Because it's humiliating when people are telling you in front of other people, your English is not good enough because your accent is so strong. I have an accent, it is true. Micah said it a long, long time ago. I have an accent, but I do have a brain. And my brain actually thinks with an accent too, because I am proud for my accent.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your patience. I did want to give Omar the last word today as we leave, but I just wanted to remind you 3 things. 1, volunteer. Look for a place to volunteer or to serve on the board or commission that where you're interested. 2, donate. Canal Alliance would be happy to take your donation on the way out. And Fernando, I'll see you up at that table. And 3, visit the Registrar of Voters table and take a packet and accept the challenge to register 5 voters by September 26th. And Omar, please.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. I want to recognize the pain. Thanks for sharing. That is the pain that we live every day. Every time I open the news, is something else new to persecute, criminalize, and separate our communities. The beautiful accent that you have is the accent of your second language. Next time somebody tells you that you have a strong accent, ask them to hear the accent in Spanish, perhaps. Nobody with one language can make you feel less than when you have two. Well, you know, we hear today a lot about the sheriff, rent control, transportation issues. To be honest, when we talk about Marin County being a county that welcomes everyone, that's the big question for me. How's that fits on that? When we talk about cities that welcomes diversity, I do have questions about that. When we hear that we have schools that are not racist, and we see those numbers, I have questions about that. I keep hearing that Marin County is a progressive county. I'm not sure about that. You know, in late 90s, my wife is from here, from Marin County. She was born and she traveled to Ecuador, fell in love with the country, and decided to stay there. And she was telling me there that she's coming from a place because she was escaping a bubble. I didn't understand what she was talking about until I moved here. So, also it's true that all nonprofits have tried to do a lot of the great work. And we have been working in silos for a long time. This is the time, there's an opportunity for all of us to rethink and use radical imagination to change a complex issue that's affecting all of us. We hear today the economic opportunity, the political opportunity, common sense. I don't know what else we have to bring to the table to start changing the reality of our communities. So the question is, what are you going to do different to change that? Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. We'll see you next time.